Some mysteries haunt us not because of their complexity, but because of their profound sadness. Today, we're examining one of America's most heartbreaking cold cases. A young boy found dead in a cardboard box in 1957, whose identity remained unknown for 65 years. This is the story of how modern science finally gave him back his name. February 25th, 1957. A college student checking his muskrat traps in a wooded area of Philadelphia's Fox Chase neighborhood notices something unusual: a large JCPenney bassinet box lying among the underbrush. Whispers. At first, he doesn't investigate. He walks past it, but something nags at him and pulls him back. When he finally looks inside, he discovers a sight that will haunt him for the rest of his life. The naked body of a small boy, carefully wrapped in a plaid blanket, his eyes still open. The child appears to be around 4 to 6 years old. His hair has been recently crudely cut. His body is clean but malnourished. And no one, absolutely no one, has any idea who he is. The discovery sends shockwaves through Philadelphia. This isn't just a tragic death. This is a child that nobody is looking for. In the days and weeks that follow the discovery, police wait for someone to come forward. A frantic parent, a concerned neighbor, a teacher, anyone who might recognize this little boy. But the phone stays silent. No missing person reports match. No one claims him. The Philadelphia Police Department launches what would become one of the most extensive investigations in the city's history. They photograph the boy's face and body, documenting everything. Medical examiners conduct a thorough autopsy. What they find paints a grim picture. The child had been severely malnourished over a long period. His body shows signs of chronic abuse, old bruises in various stages of healing, evidence of long-term neglect. The cause of death appears to be blunt force trauma to the head, though the exact circumstances remain unclear. But it's what investigators find at the scene that proves most puzzling. The bassinet box is traced back to a JCPenney store, but it's a common item sold in multiple locations across the region. The plaid blanket wrapped around the boy's body offers no clear leads. Inside the box, investigators discover the child's clothing had been removed, but nearby they find a man's cap and a child's scarf. The boy's hair appears to have been cut shortly before or after death. Crude, uneven cuts, suggesting someone tried to alter his appearance. Umber. The investigators make a decision that will define this case for decades. They'll make this boy impossible to ignore. Police circulate photographs of the child's face, post-mortem photographs that are deeply disturbing but necessary. They print hundreds of thousands of flyers. They send his image to every police department, post office, and government building in the Philadelphia area. They even go door to door in surrounding neighborhoods, showing the photo to anyone who will look. The response is overwhelming, but ultimately fruitless. Tips flood in by the thousands. People are certain they recognize the boy. He looks like a neighbor's child, a cousin, a kid from church. But every single lead evaporates upon investigation. The neighbor's child is alive and well. The cousin is accounted for. The kid from church has a different family entirely. One detective becomes particularly obsessed with the case. Remington Bristow, an employee of the medical examiner's office, dedicates years of his life to identifying the boy. He conducts his own investigation, following leads on his own time, spending his own money. Bristow becomes convinced the boy might have been raised in a nearby foster home, but despite his tireless efforts, he can never prove it. He continues his investigation until his death in 1993, never learning the child's name. The case attracts national attention. America becomes captivated by this unknown child. Who was he? Why did no one report him missing? How could a child simply vanish from existence with no one noticing? The questions haunt investigators and citizens alike. In 1998, 41 years after the discovery, the boy is exhumed. By now, DNA technology has advanced enough to potentially offer new hope. A DNA profile is extracted and entered into databases. Investigators hope for a match, a connection, anything. But once again, the trail goes cold. The DNA sits in databases, waiting for a match that doesn't come. The boy is reburied in a donated plot at Ivy Hill Cemetery. His headstone reads, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy and America's unknown child." The grave becomes a pilgrimage site. People leave toys, flowers, notes. They give him the love and death that he apparently never received in life. Years turn into decades. The case file remains open, but active leads have long since dried up. The original investigators retire or pass away. New generations of detectives inherit the case, each one hoping to be the one who finally solves it. They review the evidence, re-interview witnesses, follow up on old leads, but the boy's identity remains a mystery. Then, in the 2010s, something revolutionary begins to happen in the world of forensic investigation. Forensic genealogy, the use of DNA databases and family tree research to identify unknown individuals, starts solving cold cases that were previously thought unsolvable. The Golden State Killer is identified through this method in 2018, proving the technique's incredible potential. Urgency. Investigators in Philadelphia take notice. Could this new technology finally identify the boy in the box? In 2019, the Philadelphia Police Department partners with Identifinders International and the DNA Doe Project, organizations specializing in forensic genealogy. They begin the painstaking process of building a family tree from the boy's DNA. It's not like the television shows. This is months of meticulous work, tracing distant relatives, building out branches of family trees looking for connections. The investigators upload the boy's DNA profile to GEDmatch, a public genealogy database where people who have taken consumer DNA tests can upload their results. They're looking for genetic matches, distant cousins who share enough DNA to help build a family tree backward to identify the boy's parents. The process is incredibly complex. A match might be a third cousin twice removed. From that single connection, genealogists must build out that cousin's entire family tree, then work backward to find common ancestors, then forward again through different branches to identify who the boy's parents might have been. Each branch requires extensive research: birth certificates, marriage records, census data, obituaries, anything that can confirm relationships and narrow down possibilities. Months pass. The team identifies several promising matches, but the trees are complicated. Many branches lead nowhere. People move frequently in that era. Records are incomplete. Family structures are complex. The genealogists work with what they have, slowly narrowing down possibilities. Then finally a breakthrough. The team identifies a strong candidate for the boy's parents. The family tree points to a couple who lived in the Philadelphia area in the 1950s. They had multiple children. And crucially, there's no clear record of what happened to all of those children, whispers. The investigators need to be certain. They locate living relatives, people who would be the boy's half-siblings or close relatives. They approach these individuals carefully, sensitively. These people have no idea they might be connected to one of America's most famous cold cases. DNA samples are collected from willing relatives. The samples are processed, analyzed, compared to the boy's DNA profile. The scientists run the numbers, check and recheck their work. They need to be absolutely certain before making any announcement. In late 2022, the confirmation comes back. The DNA matches. After 65 years, they finally know who he is. December 8th, 2022, the Philadelphia Police Department holds a press conference. Somber Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw stands before the cameras and makes an announcement that generations of investigators had waited to hear. Today, we reveal his name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. The room is filled with emotion. Some of the people present have worked on this case for decades. Others are relatives of investigators who dedicated their lives to this mystery. And now, finally, this little boy has his identity back. The investigation reveals Joseph's tragic story. He was born on January 13, 1953, to Augustus Joseph Zarelli and Mary Elizabeth Zarelli. The family lived in Philadelphia's Germantown section. Joseph had siblings, but his early life was marked by severe neglect and abuse. According to the investigation, he lived in conditions of extreme poverty and dysfunction. What investigators pieced together is heartbreaking. Joseph appears to have been kept isolated, possibly hidden from neighbors and extended family. This explains why no one reported him missing, because in many ways he had already been erased from existence before his death. He likely never attended school, never saw a doctor regularly, never had the normal interactions that would create a paper trail or concerned witnesses. The circumstances of his death remain under investigation. Both of Joseph's parents are deceased. His father died in 1910, his mother in 1998. They took their secrets to the grave. While investigators believe they know generally what happened, the specific details of Joseph's final days may never be fully known. Urgency. But here's what makes this case even more complex. Investigators have not announced any arrests or named any suspects. The careful language used in official statements, referring to persons of interest rather than perpetrators, suggests the legal situation is complicated. With the primary suspects deceased and evidence from 1957 being what it is, building a prosecutable case against any living person would be extraordinarily difficult. The identification also raises haunting questions about Joseph's siblings and extended family. What did they know? Some of Joseph's half-siblings are still alive today, and learning about Joseph's existence and fate has been traumatic for them. Some family members have indicated they had no knowledge of Joseph or what happened to him, suggesting the level of isolation and secrecy surrounding his short life was profound. In March 2023, Joseph is laid to rest again, but this time with his real name on his headstone. A new funeral service is held, attended by police officers, investigators, and community members who had followed the case for decades. Father Richard Bowles, who had advocated for the boy for years, presides over the service. "We have a moral obligation to this child," he tells the gathered crowd. "He deserved a name. He deserved to be known." The grave marker now reads, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, the boy in the box, January 13th, 1953, February 1957. After 65 years, he is finally, truly himself. But the identification opens as many questions as it answers. How did Joseph's death go unreported in 1957? How did a 4-year-old child exist with no one outside his immediate household knowing about him? In an era before computers, before modern social services, before the kind of oversight we have today, it was possible for a child to be born, live, and die without leaving much of a trace. But it still seems almost impossible that no one noticed. Investigators continue to pursue leads. They're still interested in speaking with anyone who knew the Zarelli family in the 1950s, anyone who might remember something, anything about Joseph or the circumstances of his life. The case remains open. While Joseph now has his name, he still doesn't have complete justice. The forensic genealogy breakthrough that identified Joseph has broader implications. Since 2022, the technique has solved dozens of other cold cases. Unknown victims have been given their names back. Families have finally gotten answers after decades of uncertainty. The boy in the box case, given its prominence and the length of time involved, has become a symbol of what's possible with these new technologies. But it also highlights a sobering reality. Joseph's case was only solvable because relatives, however distant, had uploaded their DNA to public databases. Without that genetic genealogy network, without people voluntarily sharing their genetic information, Joseph might still be unknown today. It raises questions about privacy, about the use of genetic data, about the balance between solving crimes and protecting civil liberties. These are conversations we're still having as a society.